America. Faraway lands that have lured travelers across the Atlantic ever since the discovery of the New World. Crossing the United States and Canada are hundreds of thousands of miles of highways. Highways that lead to great cities, north, south, east, and west. That climb to Rocky Mountain heights for views of far horizons. Or skirt the golden sands of tropic seas. There are roads that wind back through the byways of history and take you through the charm of quiet countrysides, or lead views of nature's most awesome creations. No wonder that every year more and more holiday travelers from Britain and the continent sail across the Atlantic to see America for themselves. Today, an ocean crossing is so easy to make. Modern Cunard liners sail from all these ports to the United States or Canada. The Queen Elizabeth or the Queen Mary sails weekly from Southampton and Cherbourg, the only weekly express service across the Atlantic. Your Atlantic holiday may begin in London, where you board one of Cunard's special express trains from Waterloo Station to Southampton. Southampton's ocean terminal is one of the few docks in the world big enough to accommodate the Queen Elizabeth or the Queen Mary. These ships each exceed 80,000 tons, by far the largest superliners afloat. The precision schedules maintained by these ships fulfill the dream of Samuel Cunard, who more than 120 years ago founded the first regularly scheduled service across the Atlantic. The Queen's 2,000 passengers have come from everywhere. Many are experiencing their first ocean voyage. Once the great ship is nosed about and heads down Southampton water, it's only a short run across the channel to Cherbourg, where we're joined by travelers from the continent. In the open sea, the ship becomes a world in itself. A traveling community of businessmen, diplomats, artists, teachers, students, and vacationing families from every walk of life. To first-time ocean voyagers who never before have traveled on anything bigger than a train, a superliner presents a new dimension in travel. The Queen Elizabeth is longer than 3 soccer fields. The ship has 14 decks, served by 35 lifts. It's like a city afloat, with more than a score of air-conditioned public rooms, lounges, deck squares, and shops. There are quiet libraries and writing rooms for reading, study, and correspondence. A choice of first-class staterooms and suites, or economical cabin class and tourist class accommodations provides a wide variety to suit every taste and budget. Personal services include barber shops, beauty salons, Turkish baths, massage, and valet service. In cabin and tourist, dress is always informal. In first class, a dinner jacket is optional. In the evening of our first full day at sea, there's a gala get-together dance. It's easy to get acquainted. Just change partners and dance. The Queen Elizabeth has 2 fine orchestras and headline entertainers. climax of the evening is the balloon dance. Prizes are awarded to couples who hold their balloons longest. After a night of refreshing sleep, a leisurely breakfast in your stateroom sets the holiday mood for a typical day at sea. Where else but on a Queen can one enjoy acres of playground while speeding from continent to continent? You are assured of smooth sailing because the great ship is equipped with 2 sets of anti-roll stabilizers. Shuffleboard and deck tennis are among the favorite deck sports. There's plenty of enclosed deck space for playing the popular Paradise tennis and ping pong. For those of us less athletically inclined, there's another exciting competition. This is the daily tote, short for totalizator. You place a bet on the number of miles you think the ship will travel in 24 hours, from noon to noon. The tote closes at 11:55. As the noon whistle blows, officers on the bridge check the ship's position. Today the ship has traveled 730 miles, so those holding 730 win the money. 730 is a lot of mileage when you realize that the Queen's 158,000 horsepower engines propel an entire floating holiday resort, a resort which can entertain more guests than most of the largest hotels on land. But what's going on here? Looks like old-fashioned musical chairs. Break the balloon. They call this gymkhana, meaning many games, and many there are, combining exercise and fun for players and spectators. Each game is a contest with handsome souvenir prizes for the winners. In this contest, the bar is gradually lowered. Can she make it? Too bad. If you've always wanted to play in a band, the skiffle band is the one for you. All you need is rhythm. Up, down, up, down. Among the ship's many features are 2 saltwater swimming pools. The widescreen theater shows first-run films, often before their release on land. There are many places in the ship to play chess, cards, or other games. Passengers find the club-like atmosphere and service of lounges and smoking rooms ideal for a quiet afternoon or evening of bridge. Shopping is another rewarding pastime. Every Cunarder has a variety of shops filled with merchandise from Britain and the continent. handbags, perfumes, gifts, souvenirs, and everyday needs. There is sportswear and accessories for men and women. English and Scottish woolens, sweaters, and scarves. When it's time for tea, you may enjoy it wherever you happen to be, in public rooms, your own stateroom, or on deck. One of the many delights of traveling on a Cunarder is that with all the things there are to do, you don't have to do anything at all. One of the many popular spots for just taking it easy is the observation bar and lounge. Here you may meet your friends and enjoy your favorite drinks. During cocktail hours before lunch and dinner, service includes hot and cold canapes. By the way, traveling by sea isn't just for grown-ups. It's for the whole family, and it's ideal for children. Experienced trained nurses are in charge of playrooms, a wonderful convenience for parents on holiday. Children love being able to play and work off some of their natural energy, especially at parties. When visiting friends came aboard at Southampton to wish us bon voyage, they may have wondered whether all the Epicurean delights displayed on the buffet were to be eaten or were merely for decoration. If this was your first Cunard sailing, you yourself may have wondered. If you did have any doubts, the first dinner served at sea dispelled them forever. In the Cunard Queens, the first-class restaurants can accommodate all passengers at a single sitting. This is a small corner of the Queen Elizabeth's main restaurant, which seats 780 guests in luxurious space and comfort. The variety on every menu is bewildering. If your favorite is missing, the chefs will be delighted to prepare it. Your choice of fish, game birds, or the finest cuts of seasoned prime meats from both sides of the Atlantic. Where else but on a superliner can you dine in such leisure and luxury? Many first-class passengers consider dinner at sea the perfect occasion for wearing evening dresses and dinner jackets, though less formal wear is not out of place. After-dinner activities are too many to illustrate. Movies, bingo, and dancing to mention a few. A special event tonight is a headdress parade, in which prizes will be awarded for the most original designs. For night owls who enjoy a nightclub atmosphere, there is late evening music, dancing, and entertainment. With all there is to do aboard a Cunarder, it's no wonder travelers agree that getting there is half the fun. Time crossing the Atlantic flies so quickly it seems like no time at all, until the ship has steamed through the Narrows into New York Harbor. And we're passing the Statue of Liberty, presented by the people of France to the people of the United States. On our starboard side, morning sunlight and river mist silhouette the skyscraping panorama of Lower Manhattan. We're steaming up the Hudson River, named for the English explorer who sailed up it in 1609, after crossing the Atlantic in a tiny ship, little bigger than the tugs that cluster round the Queen. As the great ship approaches the pier, the surging power of the tugs is directed from the bridge high above. Press cameramen and reporters come aboard to photograph and interview celebrities on the passenger list, perhaps movie stars or international diplomats. Passengers are ready to disembark. And soon, moored at her pier, the Queen looks down on Midtown New York's busy West Side Highway, a stone's throw from the shops, hotels, and business buildings that line the city's broad avenues. Your Queen's special tour, a full week in and around New York, includes a complete circuit of Manhattan Island by boat, from which you get a moving vista of the towering complex of the downtown financial section. The United Nations headquarters on the East River, and the 20 great bridges that join Manhattan Island to Long Island across the East River and to New Jersey across the Hudson. Rockefeller Center, favorite tourist attraction, is like a city in itself, covering almost 15 acres in the heart of New York. Tours include Radio City, with its radio and television broadcasting studios and theaters, and bird's-eye views from observation lounges in the sky. If you want to go still higher, visit the 1,500-foot Empire State Building on Fifth Avenue, the world's tallest. It rises half again as high as the Eiffel Tower. Every night in New York, you can be on your own, and no city in the world has a greater variety of activities to offer. You'll visit Times Square, crossroads of the world, surrounded by theaters, hotels, and restaurants. Broadway, once the Great White Way, now blazes with every color of the spectrum. Included in your Queen's special tour are day-long trips up the Hudson to West Point and south to Atlantic City and Philadelphia. Atlantic City in New Jersey is among the most popular of the scores of seaside resorts that dot the shoreline from Canada to the Gulf of Mexico. Philadelphia's founder, William Penn, stands in bronze atop the City Hall. Because he was wise and just in dealing with the Indians, Penn's Quaker garb was said to be better protection than a musket. One of the revered historic landmarks of America is Philadelphia's Independence Hall, where the Liberty Bell rang out and the United States was born. Longer holiday tours by bus or train offer an epicure's variety of travel. For example, to the south is Washington, the nation's capital, and many historic and scenic attractions in the state of Virginia. The city of Washington is like a giant wheel, with wide avenues as its radiating spokes. On an elevation in its center is the United States Capitol, home of the Congress, the United States Senate, and the House of Representatives, which correspond to the British Houses of Parliament. The Washington National Monument honors George Washington, known to Americans as the father of his country. This great white marble obelisk towers 550 feet above the city. Taking a lift to the top, you can see all of Washington. And look down, on the nearby White House, home and office of the President, visited by hundreds of thousands of tourists every year. The Lincoln Memorial honors Abraham Lincoln, Honest Abe, who rose from humble childhood in a log cabin to guide his country as President and Commander-in-Chief during the tragic years of the Civil War. A recent monument portrays the planting of the Stars and Stripes on the Pacific island of Iwo Jima during one of the bloodiest battles of the Second World War. And here, in Arlington Cemetery, across the Potomac River in Virginia, is America's counterpart of the cenotaph in London, the tomb of the unknown soldier, watched over by an honor guard. The restoration of colonial Williamsburg preserves for modern visitors an entire British colonial city, just as it looked when it was the 18th century capital of Virginia. Among Virginia's geological wonders is Natural Bridge, carved from the earth by thousands of years of infinitely slow erosion. On another Atlantic holiday tour, you may visit the New England cities of Boston, Massachusetts, and Portland, Maine. Then travel on to Quebec and Montreal in Canada. A Great Circle tour may include Philadelphia, Washington, Pittsburgh, Niagara Falls, Toronto, Ottawa, and other Canadian cities, then back to New York. Or you may take a similar route with departure for home from Montreal or Quebec. Other tours start from Quebec and offer a wide choice of itineraries, with final departure for home either from Montreal or New York. Several tours include Ottawa, Canada's capital city, its towering Gothic Parliament buildings, and its handsome red-coated Mounties, the famous Canadian Mounted Police. Here, our tour hotel is the old French Chateau Laurier, a striking contrast to the Ottawa City Hall, modern as tomorrow. From the outlook on the crest of Mount Royal, we look down on Canada's greatest metropolis and seaport, Montreal. On the banks of the St. Lawrence River, 800 miles from the open sea, Montreal is filled with fine restaurants, shops, and all sorts of tourist attractions. Founded by the French, the city is truly bilingual. You can enjoy your sightseeing tours either in French or English. The city of Quebec, too, has this double essence of language and background. It combines the charm of old French towns with the color and pomp of British tradition. Not far from Quebec, we may visit the miraculous shrine of St. Anne de Beaupré, which attracts pilgrims from all over America. But of all the handiwork of man or nature, one of the most impressive sights we'll see in America is Niagara Falls. Niagara, an Indian name, means thundering water. Appropriately dressed, visitors may go by lift and tunnels to lookouts in the very heart of the falls. The sightseeing boat, the Maid of the Mist, transports tour passengers through the whirlpool almost to the foot of the falls. The United States and Canada utilize water from the Niagara River to generate vast electric power, but the cascading torrent that still remains provides one of the great natural spectacles of the world. On still other Cunard Atlantic holiday tours, you may visit Bermuda or Nassau and Miami, Florida. A deluxe all-America tour includes California, British Columbia, and the Canadian Rocky Mountains. A feature of this 6 weeks deluxe tour is the vast Grand Canyon of Arizona, carved from the earth by the Colorado River over countless eons of time. In California, you'll visit Los Angeles, Hollywood, and Disneyland, world capital of fantasy. Northward is the great Pacific coast port of San Francisco, with its many hills that overlook the bay. The colorful shops and restaurants of mysterious Chinatown, and the quaint cable cars that climb the precipitous streets. You'll visit Vancouver, British Columbia's metropolis, then travel eastward by train into the heart of the Canadian Rockies. During 3 days at Jasper Park Lodge, you'll see some of the world's most majestic mountain views and may visit the spectacular Columbia ice fields. Traveling eastward through Canada, you'll cross a country larger than all of Europe. Whichever Atlantic holiday you've chosen, when your shore excursion comes to an end in New York or Montreal, a friendly Cunard liner is waiting to welcome you home. Here in Montreal, it will be one of the beautiful ships in Cunard's Canadian service, the Corinthia, the Carmania, or the Franconia. For those who embark at Montreal, farewell views of America will include the skylines of Montreal and Quebec and passing vistas along the great St. Lawrence River on the way to the open sea. If our departure for home is from New York, in the Queen Elizabeth or the Queen Mary, we'll say farewell to the skyline of Manhattan as we begin another 5 days of carefree luxury at sea, gourmet dining in the Queen's famous restaurants, music, dancing, gay entertainment, salt air and sunshine, with cheerful service on every hand. Of all our holiday memories, none will remain more vivid than those of the great ship which has been our home away from home, our happy vacation island at sea.